Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Let me tell you, watching Willow lately has been like watching a completely different person unfold right before our very eyes. Bless her heart, she has spent weeks fighting tooth and nail to regain her footing at General Hospital, and now that she has finally secured that coveted seat on the board of directors, she is practically walking on air. It is almost as if she believes she has built an invisible fortress around herself that absolutely no one can penetrate. We all remember the sweet, gentle young woman she used to be, the one who just wanted peace, love, and harmony for her family. But power has a funny way of changing, folks, does it not? Earning that board seat, angering the fierce Tracy Quartermain in the process, and stepping into her new political shoes has given her a taste of authority that she just cannot seem to get enough of. She is standing tall, chest puffed out, completely convinced that she is holding all the winning cards in her hand. But as anyone who has lived a little knows, the moment you think you are completely untouchable is the exact moment you are most vulnerable to a sudden and very hard fall. Her recent victories have only added dangerous fuel to this growing fire of overconfidence. She managed to outmaneuver Drew, which is no small feat considering everything he has survived and how hard he is fighting to recover his mobility. In Willow's mind, beating Drew was the ultimate proof that she is the smartest person in the room. Now, she is using that momentum to demand more time with her precious children, acting as though the custody battle is already a closed book and she is the undisputed victor. She looks at the people around her and sees them as little more than chess pieces she can just move around at her whim. Kai Taylor has been watching all of this unfold with sheer terror, genuinely afraid that Willow might take dark, unthinkable measures to permanently silence Drew just to protect her secrets. When a young mother starts believing her own press to that extreme extent, she stops looking out for the very real dangers lurking right around the corner. She is counting her chickens long before they have hatched, and it is honestly heartbreaking to watch her march so blindly toward a disaster of her own making. The sheer audacity of her next move is what really leaves me shaking my head in absolute disbelief. Instead of counting her blessings and focusing on raising those sweet babies in a peaceful environment, Willow has decided to use her newfound political and hospital influence to push for the reopening of the official investigation into Drew's shooting. Now, why on earth would she purposefully stir up that angry hornet's nest? Because she wants to point the finger squarely at Michael. She is so determined to ruin him and secure her absolute control over the children that she is willing to open a massive, unpredictable can of worms. She actually thinks she can just neatly orchestrate the flow of evidence, guide the police right to Michael's doorstep, and walk away with her own hands perfectly clean. It is a gamble of epic proportions, and it shows just how detached from reality her ambition has made her. She is playing a high-stakes game of poker with people's lives, but she does not realize that the other players at the table can see right through her desperate bluff. Her mother, Nina, can clearly see the writing on the wall, and the maternal panic in her eyes is truly palpable. Nina has been around the block more than a few times, and she knows firsthand the bitter, lingering taste of losing everything because of foolish pride and stubbornness. She sat Willow down and tried with all her might to talk some common sense into her, warning her that these recent triumphs have made her dangerously overconfident. Nina pleaded with her daughter to see that she is skating on incredibly thin ice, begging her to slow down and appreciate the ground she has already gained without risking it all. But you know how it is when someone gets a bee in their bonnet. Willow flat out refused to listen to a single word. She brushed off her mother's desperate, tearful warnings as if they were nothing more than a minor nuisance. It is so incredibly hard for a mother to watch her child make a catastrophic mistake, knowing full well that no amount of shouting or crying will stop them from touching the hot stove. Nina is certainly not the only one sounding the loud alarm bells right now. Jack Brennan, who has been growing closer to Nina and acting as her trusted strategic confidant, has also weighed in heavily on this reckless plan. Jack is a man who deeply understands strategy, and he clearly warned that reopening the investigation into Drew's shooting is a terrible, terrible idea. He pointed out the obvious flaw in her grand design, noting that digging into the past does not just expose Michael, it threatens to unearth the very evidence that Willow is desperately trying to keep buried forever. Jack knows that police investigations are unpredictable beasts, and once you unleash the authorities, you cannot control where they look or what they ultimately find. He tried to make her understand that she is essentially handing the police the shovel they need to dig her own grave. But once again, Willow's pride acted like a pair of heavy blinders, completely blocking out Jack's wise and necessary counsel. And let us not forget the formidable presence of Anna Devane in all of this. If this shooting case gets reopened, it will inevitably land right back in Anna's lap. Now, we all know Anna is currently battling her own deeply personal demons and suffering through agonizing, destructive hallucinations of Peter August, but even a distracted Anna is still sharper than most people on their very best day. The biggest fear that Jack and Nina share is that Anna will manage to recover the missing traffic camera footage from the night of the shooting. If that specific footage comes to light, the absolute truth about Willow's own involvement in the incident will be broadcast for the whole town to see. The deeper the investigation goes, the higher the likelihood that Willow's carefully constructed house of cards will come tumbling down around her. It is terrifying to think that Willow is practically inviting the legendary Anna Devane to look closely at her life, completely underestimating the relentless investigative powerhouse she is dealing with. What truly baffles me is how Willow processes all these very real, very terrifying threats. Instead of seeing Jack's warnings, Nina's pleas, and the looming shadow of Anna Devane as giant red stop signs, she views them as minor speed bumps on her road to total victory. She has somehow convinced herself that she is clever enough to outsmart the police, outmaneuver her own mother, and outplay the entire justice system. This is the very definition of dangerous hubris. When a person starts believing that the basic rules of consequence simply do not apply to them, a massive tragedy is usually just around the corner waiting to strike. She is so intensely fixated on destroying Michael and securing her perfect, idealized picture of the future that she is completely ignoring the heavy smell of smoke right in her own house. It is a classic, age-old tale of pride coming before the fall. And as much as we might want to reach right through the television screen and shake some sense into her, we can only sit back and watch as she marches confidently toward the edge of the cliff. As if the incredibly tense situation with the shooting investigation was not enough to make your stomach tie in knots, Willow has also decided to throw her weight around in her personal life. She took it upon herself to file a strict restraining order against Jacinda, aiming to forcefully and legally remove the woman from any proximity to Michael and the children. In Willow's mind, this was a simple, clean, administrative move that would solve all her problems. She looked at Jacinda and saw nothing more than an irritating pest that needed to be swatted away with a piece of paper. She falsely assumed that an order from a judge would be more than enough to intimidate Jacinda into packing up her things and disappearing quietly into the night. It is yet another glaring example of Willow using her new status and power to bully her way through life, completely disregarding the complex human emotions of the people she is stepping on to get her way. The fatal flaw in Willow's aggressive plan was treating Jacinda like a helpless, weak victim who would just roll over and accept her bitter defeat. She severely and dangerously underestimated the deep well of Jacinda's anger and sheer desperation. When you push someone into a tight corner and threaten to take away the things they care about most, you should always expect them to come out swinging. Willow was so busy patting herself on the back for being a strong, decisive mother that she completely failed to realize she had just declared an all-out war on a woman who felt she had absolutely nothing left to lose. She viewed Jacinda as a minor inconvenience, a simple stepping stone on her path to total victory over Michael. But Jacinda is certainly not a stepping stone. She is a deeply flawed human being with a fierce temper and a very dangerous, unchecked capacity for dark retaliation. As we wait on the edge of our seats to see how this terrifying ordeal plays out, one thing is abundantly clear. The universe has a funny way of humbling those who believe they are above it all. My thoughts and prayers are entirely with those sweet children, hoping against hope that someone, anyone, realizes something is terribly wrong before it is too late. Will Willow's drug-induced impairment lead to a tragic, irreversible accident? Will a familiar face step in just in time to save the day? This entire situation just goes to show that in a town like Port Charles, the most dangerous weapon is not a loaded gun or a secret file. It is unchecked, blinding pride. We can only hope that if Willow survives this waking nightmare, she finally wakes up and realizes that true strength comes from humility and love, not from stepping on others to reach the top. It is a harsh, brutal lesson, and I just pray the cost of learning it is not too high for her family to bear.